and the natural habitat which comes under in situ conservation is called as the protected areas. So biosphere reserve is a larger one. Within a biosphere reserve, there may be 1 or 2 national parks. Because of the pollution, as well as there is no enough amount of staff which is available to maintain a biosphere reserve, semen of the bovine animals which is used for domestication, like cow it can be for example, it is stored in this particular genetic resource. Okay. Hello my dear students, welcome back to the last session on the chapter Biodiversity and Conservation. Last class we studied about the endangered species, endemic species of India, etc. Isn't it? Today we learn about the factors which are affecting the biodiversity as well as we learn how to conserve them. Okay. So first is factors that affect the biodiversity. Biodiversity is disturbed by human activity. A lot of human activities which are disturbing the biodiversity. As we know, there is pollution which is happening, deforestation which is happening, due to which the biodiversity loss is there. Also, poaching of animals, overexploitation of all the natural resources and degradation of habitats affect the biodiversity. We are poaching animals for the products like horns or skin, that is the leather which we get from the animals, or the fur, etc. So poaching of the animals has to be stopped, as well as we are over exploiting all the natural resources which is there, like forest resource, water resource, then we have the land resource, food resource, etc. We are over exploiting all of this, which is affecting our biodiversity as well. Then the marine ecosystem is disturbed due to oil spills and the discharge of the effluents from the industries, and also climatic factors like global warming, ozone depletion and acid rain is affecting the biodiversity as well. So these are some of the factors, and we have learned each factor, what does it mean, isn't it? So this is the main reason for the decline in biodiversity in the world. Okay. Also, next, how are we going to conserve our biodiversity? Conservation of biodiversity. The following measures has to be taken. First one is illegal hunting and trading of animals and animal products should be stopped completely, and strict action has to be taken against who are doing this. Also, people at large should boycott the purchasing of any animal products like purse, bags made of animal skin, and the laws should be strengthened. Okay. Then what else we can do? Adequate crop and cattle compensation schemes must be started. Then solar powered fencing must be provided with electric current proof trenches to prevent the animals from entering the field. So what happens is, because there is a lot of biodiversity loss, the forest deforestation is happening. The wild animals have started coming to the villages, to spoil the crops and many other things, because of which again humans have started killing these animals which are coming to, for food and water, actually they are coming. So these wild animals have to be protected. That can be done. Okay. And also cropping patterns should be changed near the forest borders. The pattern which crops are there, that has to be changed. Adequate food and water should be made available for all the wild animals within the forest zone. That is the reason they are coming to our villages, because they do not have enough amount of food as well as water. Okay. Development and construction work in and around forest region should be completely stopped, so that the biodiversity in the forest is not disturbed. So these are some of the measures which we can take to conserve our biodiversity. Also, there are different types of conservation of biodiversity. Broadly, it is classified into two, that is in situ and ex situ conservation. Under in situ conservation, we have the protected area networks, and it is further divided into three types, that is the sacred groves, the biosphere reserves, national park and wildlife sanctuaries, and also biosphere reserves can be either terrestrial or it can be even marine. Okay. Then we have ex situ conservation. Ex situ conservation, again sacred plants, home garden, etc. Ex situ conservation. Seed banks can be done, and gene banks by cryopreservation can be done. Also, botanical gardens, zoological gardens, aquariums are the ones which are called as ex situ conservation. We learn broadly exactly what is in situ and what is ex situ conservation. So first we are going to in situ conservation. Okay. In situ conservation involves the protection of flora and fauna within its natural habitat. In situ, inside, okay. We are going to protect the animals as well as the plants in their own homes itself, or in their own habitat. We are going to protect them. Okay, that we call it as in situ conservation. If you are pulling them out and then you're going to conserve them in some different habitat, okay, that is artificially made, then we call that as ex situ conservation. Okay, so in situ conservation means what? Involves protection of flora as well as fauna within its natural habitat, and the natural habitat which comes under in situ conservation is called as the protected areas. Okay, they are called as what? Protected areas. And in situ conservation can be broadly classified into 4 types: biosphere reserves, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and gene sanctuaries. Next, we have the biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves are those areas in which the flora as well as the fauna, that is the animals and the plants, are preserved in their own habitat. That is, the ecosystem is not disturbed at all, and the biosphere will have the area more than 5,000 square kilometers. Okay. The role of biosphere reserves, if you see, first of all, it is a long-term survival of evolving the ecosystem. So long-term survival of all the ecosystem is there. Okay, everything, biotic, abiotic factors, everything. Okay, protected endangered species is more protected here. We are going to take care that the endangered species are more protected here. Also protect maximum number of species as well as the communities. Here, it may also be used for educational and research purpose, as well as the biosphere reserve function as an open system. That is, it does not allow the change in land to be occurring here. The land use has to be used only for the ecosystem, but it's an open system, and no tourism or explosive activities is allowed in the biosphere reserves. Total in India, we have almost 18 biosphere reserves. You can see the cold deserts, the Nanda Devi, then we have Kangchenjunga, Manas, then we have Salkova, then we have Nokrek, then you have Sundarban, then you have Similipal, then you have Panna, Panchmarhi, then you have Kutch, then you have Sheshachalam, Nilgiri, then you have Agastya Malai, then you have Gulf of Mannar, Great Nicobar, Dehang Dibang. Okay, so these are some of the biosphere reserves which we can see in India, and there are total 18 biosphere reserves in India. Okay, next is the national park. Okay, so it is an area dedicated for conservation of wildlife along with its environment. Here mainly we are worried about the wildlife, not about the plants and trees here. Okay, but the wildlife is protected in their own habitat itself. That is, along with its environment, it is going to be protected here. It covers an area ranging from 100 to 500 square kilometers. It is smaller compared to the biosphere reserves. One or more national parks may exist within a biosphere reserve. So biosphere reserve is a larger one. Within a biosphere reserve, there may be 1 or 2 national parks which is having an area of 100 to 500 square kilometers, and there only wildlife is what we are more worried about. Okay, the national parks are used for enjoyment through tourism without affecting the environment. Okay, and it is used to protect, propagate and develop wildlife. What is it? Protect the wildlife, propagate wildlife, as well as develop the wildlife. Grazing domestic animals inside national park is prohibited. All private rights and forestry activities are prohibited. inside the national park. And you can see there are so many national parks. All the red dots or the area which is there, which is, you know, in India, are all national parks which are there. In India, we have got 101 national parks, and it covers almost 1.23% of the land geographical area in India. Okay, so these many national parks we have according to 2019 database. Okay, next we have about the wildlife sanctuaries. Wildlife sanctuary is an area that is reserved for conservation of animals only. Again, here also it is only for animals. It protects the animals and allows the operations such as harvesting of timber. See, here some of the activities of the humans are allowed other than tourism. That is, you can see harvesting of timber, collection of forest products, private ownership rights, and forestry operation, provided it does not affect the animal adversely. It should not affect the animal, but all of these activities are allowed in wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, so that's about the wildlife sanctuary. Next, we have the gene sanctuary. Gene sanctuary is area where plants are conserved. See, wildlife sanctuary, wildlife, where wildlife is conserved, and gene sanctuary is where only the plants are conserved. At present, we have Citrus indica. Okay, it is there. The conservation for this particular gene is done in Nokrek National Park, West Garo Hills district of state of Meghalaya. It is present. Okay, this variety is found only in this region in the world. That is, this particular plant, citrus plant is present, or the citrus tree I can tell is present only in this part of the world, and this is the gene sanctuary for this particular plant. Okay, locally known as Memang Narang. Okay, or a wild orange. It's called as Memang Narang or a wild orange. It's a family of orange which is there, citrus fruit family. Okay, that plant is present only in this place in Meghalaya, and this is the gene sanctuary for this particular plant. Okay, or tree I can tell. So that's about the gene sanctuary. Next we have the advantages as well as the disadvantages of in situ conservation. First, coming to the advantages of in situ conservation, it is cheap and convenient because you are not going to do something artificially. What is there naturally, we are trying to protect the animals and plants within their own ecosystem. So it's cheap and convenient. Species get adjusted to the natural disasters like drought, flood, forest fires, etc. naturally, because we have left them in their natural ecosystem. Okay, the disadvantage of in situ conservation is the large surface area of the earth is required to preserve biodiversity. Maintenance is not proper due to the shortage of staff and of pollution. Because of the pollution, as well as there is no enough amount of staff which is available to maintain a biosphere reserve, or a in situ conservation becomes a little difficult task. Okay, so that's about the advantages and disadvantages. Next, coming to the ex situ conservation. Ex situ conservation involves the protection of flora and fauna outside their natural habitat. That is, I told you, we pull out the flora, we pull out the fauna from their ecosystem, and we are going to put them in the artificial ecosystem, and we are trying to preserve them or protect them. Okay, so this type of conservation is mainly done by conservation of crop varieties and wild relatives of crops. So for crops, it's quite easy. Okay, ex situ conservation involves maintenance and breeding of the endangered plant as well as the animal species under controlled condition. So what we are doing, we are trying to increase their number by breeding. Okay, it may be breeding of crops or it may be breeding of animals also. Especially the endangered species are taken care of. It identifies those species that are at high risk of extinction, and it prefers the species that are important for man and in near future among the endangered species. So those species which are very important for man as well as those who are almost in the verge of extinction, so those species of plants and animals are pulled out, and we are giving more care and attention to such species only. Okay, so ex situ conservation has these many centers, that is botanical gardens, seed banks, microbial culture collection, tissue and cell culture, museums, and the zoological gardens. So the zoo comes under here, museums where you can see, the plants and animals are conserved, then tissue and cell culture, here only the tissue and the cells of certain endangered species can be kept, seed banks where the seeds of all the types of crops have been conserved here, okay, and botanical gardens and microbial culture collection. The different types of microbes are bred and it is cultured and it is preserved for us for future use if we need them. Okay, so these are the different centers for ex situ conservation. Next is about the methods of ex situ conservation. If you see, the different methods are there in different different resources, different places it has been conserved. So what exactly it is? We have NPBGR, that is the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources. Here this is located in New Delhi, and we use the technique of cryopreservation. Cryopreservation where the crops are stored in the freezing condition where the liquid nitrogen is used. Okay, liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees Celsius is used. There are different varieties of rice, radish, turnip, tomato seeds. Everything can be stored using the technique of cryopreservation. Okay. Next is National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resource, that is NPAGR. That is, it's located in Karnal and Haryana, and it preserves the semen of the domesticated bovine animals. So the semen of the bovine animals which is used for domestication, like cow it can be, for example, it is stored in this particular genetic resource. Okay, last we have National Facility for Plant Tissue Culture Repository. We are again storing them. Okay, so here National Facility of Plant Tissue Culture Repository, that is NFPTCR. In this facility, conservation of varieties of crops and trees are done using tissue culture. So here we are using the method of tissue culture, and this is one of the facility which is created within NPBGR. Okay, so in NPBGR we use cryopreservation techniques, and in NPBGR itself we have a repository for tissue culture to be used. Okay, where you can store all the different types of tissues of different plants and trees as well. And then we have the NPAGR, in which the semen of the different bovine animals that is domesticated has been stored here for use at any point of time. Okay. Next, advantages of ex situ conservation. Survival of endangered species is increasing due to the special care which we are giving them. Okay, then in captive breeding, the animals are assured of food, water, shelter and security, hereby have a longer lifespan. So here we have captured, or we have taken, I told you we have pulled out the animals and the crops from their ecosystem and we are protecting them. So when we are doing that, we have taken care of food, shelter, water, etc. So the lifespan also of these animals have increased. So it is carried out in cases of endangered species that do not have any chance of survival in the wild. Okay, so endangered species have increased in number, their lifespan also is increased, and also endangered species number can be increased by using ex situ conservation. Last is the disadvantages of ex situ conservation. It's an expensive method because you have to give all the care, all the attention to the endangered species which is there. Then freedom of wildlife is lost. So these animals, it becomes difficult for them to get adjusted to the different temperature, different ecosystem, and they have to be They are always monitored. So the wildlife lose their freedom from where they are actually living, isn't it? Then animals cannot survive in the natural environment. Once you have picked them from the natural environment, you've given all the care, all the attention, when you try to put them back into their own habitat, it becomes very difficult for those animals to survive again in the natural environment where they're supposed to be there, because you have picked them out and they've always been in the artificial environment. They get used to it, so it's very difficult for them to adjust back to their original environment. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages of ex situ conservation. So I hope you have understood today's class. Thank you, my dear children. Stay tuned for more updates.